Important figures in American Nazism. Our first important figure is Mildred Elizabeth Gillars, aka Access Sally. Mildred Gillars was an American broadcaster who was employed by the Nazi Germany to disseminate Axis propaganda during World War II. Once captured after the war in Berlin, Mildred was the first woman to be convicted of treason against the United States. She was born on November 29, 1900, and died on June 25, 1988. Our next figure is Charles E. Coughlin. Charles Coughlin was born on October 25, 1891. Coughlin became a Catholic priest in 1916. In 1930, Charles went on his first broadcast stating economic problems. Coughlin once went on a broadcast and started attacking Jews and said Kristallnacht was justified retaliation for Jews' persecutions of Christians. George Lincoln Rockwell was born on March 9, 1918. He was a well-known American neo-Nazi politician. Rockwell was discharged from the Navy because of his political views. He was a founder of the American Nazi Party, and he was shot and killed doing his laundry in 1967. Our next one is Harold Covington. He was born on September 14, 1953. Harold Covington was a founder of a white separatist group. In 1971, Covington joined the National Socialist White People's Party. He was deported from Rhodesia, which is known as Zimbabwe now, after sending threats to a Jewish congregation in 1976. He died on July 21, 2018. Next is Rocky Joe Suhara. Suhara is an American neo-Nazi who is still currently serving as the chairman of the American Nazi Party. Rocky ran unsuccessfully for public office on several occasions. Suhara's organization has a connection to the American Nazi Party founded by George Lincoln Rockwell. Our next one is Matthias Coel. Coel was an American Marine, neo-Nazi politician, and a writer. Coel joined the National Renaissance Party in 1960. Coel took Rockwell's place as a commander of the National Socialist White People's Party. Our last one is Savitri Devi. Devi was a French-born fascist. She was a spy who served the Axis powers by committing acts of espionage against Allied forces in India.
In the next few slides, I'll be showing historical events that show American Nazism before World War II and also that continued after World War II. It's important to realize that neo-Nazis didn't die after the war. They're still around in America today. On February 20th, 1939, New York's Madison Square was lit up for a pro-American rally. It was chosen in honor of George Washington's birthday, and in the photos shown on this slide, you can see a portrait of George Washington is hung alongside swastika banners and American flags. The rally opened with the Pledge of Allegiance to the American flag. Posters with slogans like "Stop Jewish Domination of Christian America" could be seen. The rally was sponsored by the German-American Bund, which was an organization that was open about its support of Hitler and fascism in Europe. The speeches were deeply anti-Semitic, saying that Jewish refugees were taking their jobs. They demanded a white America and even denounced President Roosevelt. In the 1930s, before the outbreak of World War II, there were Nazi summer camps throughout America. These camps portrayed Nazi sympathizers, with parents giving the Nazi salute and children wearing uniforms with swastikas. At these camps, children were taught how to speak German and sing German songs. Jews were excluded from these summer camps, and anti-Semitism was at its peak in this time period. Listening to the radio was a popular pastime during World War II, and Nazi propaganda wasn't broadcasted to just American soldiers, but to citizens of America as well. There were many famous broadcasters like William Joyce or his radio personality Lord Haw Haw. He was an American-born fascist who used pro-Hitler rants and chastised Jews. After the war, he was eventually caught and hanged for aiding the enemy. In May 1939, 935 German Jews were headed for Cuba and then the United States on a ship called the St. Louis. After arriving at Cuba, they set sail for Miami, Florida. U.S. officials already announced that the ship would not be allowed to land due to strict immigration laws and Americans distrusting Jewish immigrants. The boat was eventually sent back, and the refugees were divided up and sent to European countries. 254 passengers on the St. Louis ended up dying in the Holocaust. In 1960, in Arlington, Virginia, a peaceful protest in the form of a sit-in began for integration. However, these protesters were only to be harassed by police and members of the Arlington-based American Nazi Party. 60 years later, in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, neo-Nazi white supremacists protest intolerance of those of Jewish faith as well as African Americans and the LGBTQ community. Skinheads used to be the term for working-class youth in London, but now it's more associated with the radical right and neo-Nazis. For example, the Hammerskin Nation is the most violent and organized neo-Nazi group in the United States. They're known for harassing, beating, and murdering minorities. In 1990, 5 members of the Hammerskins were convicted for conspiring to violate the rights of blacks, Hispanics, and Jews.
Hitler committed suicide on April 30th, 1945. Hitler didn't think that he won the war and he had nothing else to do. Without Hitler, Germany became less powerful and they became less weaker. And everything went down forever. Cardunes was appointed to be president of Germany. He negotiated with others to preserve the Nazi regime, but none of it worked. It was May 8th, 1945, when Nazi surrendered to the Western Allies and the Soviet Union. Neo-Nazi groups are social and political groups that are seeking to revive the Nazi days. These people take part in promoting violence and spreading hatred and attacking minorities that don't fit their liking. All around the world, there are neo-Nazi organizations. They all share similar beliefs. And one neo-Nazi group that was founded in the 1970s is Aryan Nations. This is a white power group that was actually viewed as a terrorist threat back in 2001. William Pierce is one of the known Nazi leaders, and he was born in Atlanta into a high-class family. He went to college, got a bachelor's degree in physics, and he quit his job to join a Nazi party in 1966. In recent events, a young man named Matthew Krieger, who was 18, was put into jail for acts of terrorism. He was found with a gun and said he would use them to attack minorities along with gays and Muslims with them. The KKK, or the Ku Klux Klan, was founded in Tennessee in 1866. It was just a social group in the beginning, but over time it became a hate group. They are anti-African American, anti-Jewish, anti-minorities in the end of the day.
I will be arguing today on how fascism, or Nazism, they're quite similar, is relevant in today's world. I will be arguing about how the current conservative movement has been propping up fascists as their leaders for quite some time. Fascists tend to reject modernity. This is relevant as the whole point of conservatism, as Americans know it, is to reject the progression of our society as it's too woke. Of course, what the traditional life looks like varies from person to person. In a fascist movement, the leader is often shown as godlike. This is relevant today as leaders in far-right movements are often depicted as glorious god kings, who will do anything to save us from the riffraff. To disagree is treason. In conservative circles, it was and still is considered treason to admit that the current election was not stolen. To the conservative, fascist, if you are a traitor, you deserve whatever happens. The fascists will use scapegoats as a rally cry. For the conservatives, this ranges from evil Democrats to more racially charged things. If you question the logic too much, you will find that this is simply based on hate, like any other fascist movement. The fascist rhetoric is full of contradictions. This is due to the idea that if you are confused, you won't question things, as fascist movements work best when participants are ignorant. Fascism is in essence far-right populism, and as populism grows in America, it's only natural that we see fascism pop up in areas. Fascists will employ newspeak as a way of hiding their true intentions. This is what's known as a dog whistle. Some examples are fake news, law and order, and parentheses. The parentheses indicate that someone is Jewish. In conclusion, fascism or Nazism is an ideology based on contradictions, bigotry, and solely on aesthetics. While not dominant in American society, that does not mean that it is completely gone. Quite the contrary, as it's starting to make a strong comeback.